to ensure continued use. Substantial evidence. This shifts the burden to the owner of the property to provide proof that the use is active and continuing. Ensuring that the existing permits are still valid and being properly used ensures compliance with the city's procedures and ordinances and promotes interaction and communication with the city, which further orderly development and the health, safety, and welfare of the community. Action requested. As a public hearing will be held, testimony based on substantial evidence from the public should be listened to and considered before deciding on the requested conditional use permit application. Only where no reasonable conditions could exist to allow the conditional use may a conditional use permit be denied.
Thank you for that, Katie. I would now like to open the public hearing. If there is anyone that would like to speak in favor of allowing this conditional use permit filed by Lori Kopecki of Wireless Planning, now is the time. Is there anyone present who would like to speak in favor of this conditional use permit? This is the third and final call asking for people who would like to speak in favor of the conditional use permit. Not hearing any, I'll now ask for people who would like to speak against the conditional use permit. Is that someone trying to speak?
I think that's a phone call.
There's a hand raised, Mr. Schubert.
Mr. Schubert, you have the floor. Is he unmuted? I can't see that, so
He's unmuted and he raised his hand, so I'm not. Mr. Schubert, did you want to speak?
okay, I'll ask again for anyone wishing to speak against the conditional use permit. And this is the third and final call for those wishing to speak against the conditional use permit. Not hearing anyone, I'll now declare the public hearing closed and turn it over to the commissioners for consideration and possible action on the conditional use permit for the Wireless Planning LLC. Commissioners?
I'll make a motion. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Tom.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve agenda number 4 for Wireless Planning LLC with the 4 conditions noted.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Tom Smith, seconded by Craig Breitsprecher to approve the conditional use permit with the 4 conditions. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. We'll now move on to item 5 of the agenda. And there will be a public hearing. And this is to consider a rezoning request filed by Lawrence and Janet Kent of 14 Rywood Circle, Homosassa, Florida 34446 to rezone the property located at 606 Marcoux Road, Onalaska, Wisconsin 54650 from R4 multifamily residential district to R1 residential district for the purpose of allowing the construction of a single family dwelling at 606 Marcoux Road, Onalaska, Wisconsin 54650. And this is tax parcel ID number 18-3566-403. I'll turn it over to Katie for some basic information.
Thank you. The comprehensive plan identifies this area as environmentally sensitive, which is intended for lower density single family development. The applicant intends to rezone this property from R4 to low density residential R1. It is located within the Country Club Estates and is governed by existing covenants and restrictions which prohibit multifamily residences. Adjacent lots are zoned R1 and they would like to construct a single family home, which is currently prohibited in the R4 district. As a public hearing will be held, testimony should be considered before deciding on the requested application. City staff have put together 7 conditions of approval for this development.
Thank you for that. I will now declare the public hearing open for anyone who would like to speak in favor of the rezoning request filed by Lawrence and Janet Kent. Would anyone like to speak in favor of the zoning request? This is the third and final call for anyone who would like to speak in favor of the rezoning request. Not hearing anyone. I'll now ask for those who would like to speak against the rezoning request. Second call for anyone who would like to speak against the rezoning request filed by Lawrence and Janet Kent. And this is the third and final call for anyone wishing to speak against the rezoning request. Not hearing anyone, I'll now declare the public hearing closed and turn this matter over to the commissioners for their pleasure.
I would make a motion to grant the rezoning request filed by Lawrence and Janet Kent with the 7 conditions noted by staff.
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion by Craig Breitsprecher, seconded by Newt Temte to grant the rezoning request for Lawrence and Janet Kent, along with the 7 conditions. Is there discussion?
I have a question.
Sure,
On number
Jan
2,
Brock?
on number 2, it says a perk fee is due. Would that have been paid when the property was originally platted, or is that because they're asking for a rezoning?
Park fees are paid when you pull building permits. So these are generally noted on the plats or the amounts. So we list them out. So if someone were to pull this fee, it would be paid at the time they pull a building permit for a single family dwelling,
Okay, so the Kents don't have to pay this.
unless they do construction.
Oh, okay, thank you. I appreciate the clarification.
Thank you, Jan. Were there any other questions or comments? Okay, not seeing any. The motion on the floor is to approve the rezoning request filed by Lawrence and Janet Kent with the 7 conditions. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item number 6 is a public hearing to consider a planned commercial industrial development, a PCID amendment application filed by Scott Terrell, Freedy and Associates, 500 Utility Court, P.O. Box 248, Reedsburg, Wisconsin, 53959, on behalf of Katie and White Holdings, LLC, 205 Fifth Avenue South, Suite 600, La Crosse, Wisconsin, 54601, on the parcel located at 9430 State Road 16 on Alaska, Wisconsin, 54650. And this is tax parcel number 18-3578-2. I'll turn it over to Katie.
Thank you. The applicant is requesting to amend the existing planned commercial industrial district PCID to remove the existing TGI Fridays building and construct 2 smaller separate buildings for restaurant retail purposes. Building A is proposed to be 5,200 square feet with a full drive-through, and building B approximately 6,020 square feet to have a pickup window. On the site plan that they have proposed, which is a concept, a total of 94 parking stalls to serve the overall development. It's considered a major amendment to the PCID as there is an increase in density, which does require a public hearing. If approved by the Plan Commission and Council, the city will record the attached conditions of approval to La Crosse County Register of Deeds to document the final list of conditions for all future development opportunities. Included in the packet is a site plan and also a cover letter that describes the overall development in additional detail. As a public hearing will be held, testimony should be considered before deciding on the requested PCID amendment. City staff have put together 11 conditions of approval for this development. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that information. All right, I will now open the public hearing to consider the planned commercial industrial development amendment application. Anybody who would like to speak in favor of this, please do so now.
Good evening, this is Scott Truel. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Great, thank you so much for taking this item up this evening. As Katie had indicated, we are proposing to take down the former TGIF building and reconstruct 2 smaller buildings. Each of those buildings will be multi-tenant buildings. What they allow us to do is, especially given the change in the world as a result of the virus, it will allow us to perhaps have each of those buildings be smaller multi-tenant type buildings. Ideally, we're hoping to be able to start one of those buildings yet this year, and perhaps the second one then after the first one is complete. They're in character with some of the other buildings in the area. At this point, we do not have leases, but it had extensive interest on the part of some national type tenants. Again, functionally, we believe we're meeting all of the requirements with regard to setbacks and parking and the like. I think in terms of, Katie and I have had a couple of conversations, and I think we're comfortable with the conditions that are identified in the staff report, with the one comment that the existing internal drive is actually only 24 feet right now, not 30 feet as indicated in perhaps the original documents. But otherwise, I'd be happy to answer any other questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Trull. If you'll stand by, we'll let you know if we have any questions. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor of the planned commercial industrial development amendment? Anyone who would like to speak in favor?
This is Kathy Anderson. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Kathy Anderson, welcome.
I'm the architect working with on this project, and I just wanted to clarify that we're planning on keeping the existing 24-foot drive aisle, which really is a standard for 2 lanes of traffic, 12 feet apiece, as opposed to the clause that stated it should be 30.
Thank you for that. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor of this amendment? Okay, then this will be the last call for those speaking in favor. Okay, now I'll open it up for anyone who would like to speak against the planned commercial industrial development amendment application. Anyone who would like to speak against? Last call for anyone who would like to speak against the amendment application. Not hearing anyone, I'll now, oh, hold on, Amanda may have someone.
We had a couple of people join us late and I do have to change their settings. So if you would just maybe repeat that one more time to see if either of those individuals would like to speak,
Sure.
please.
This is the last call. If anyone would like to speak against the planned commercial industrial development amendment application filed by Scott Trull and Associates, now is the time to do so. This is for the parcel located at 9430 State Road 16. Anyone else who would wish to speak on this? Okay, I will then declare the public hearing is now closed, and I will turn it over to the commissioners.
I'll make a motion, this is Tom, that we approve the amended application filed by Scott Truel on behalf of KD and White Holdings, as stated in item agenda number 6 with the 11 conditions noted.
I'll second that.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor by Tom Smith, seconded by Craig Breitsprecher, to approve the planned commercial industrial development amendment application with the 11 conditions. Is there any further discussion?
Kim, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
If I can ask Scott, if you're still on, just out of curiosity, what's the existing square footage of the TGI Fridays building?
I believe it's a little over 6,000 square feet.
So we're really doubling the square footage of the structures on that, in that area. Almost.
Actually, it might, it's, I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but it's actually, I think it might actually be more like 7,000 square feet, but yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Jared Holter, city engineer.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Smith. Looking at the picture we have in front of us today, you know, I can see the flow of traffic and kind of looked at it, and I mean, I think it'll work. It's in the service road that does wrap around that area is relatively low traffic because it doesn't service a lot of the buildings that you see. It does appear that the retail building A and B, I mean, as Commissioner Britzberger pointed out, it does appear to be a lot of building in a small area. A lot of the parking is actually off to the west of the buildings. So I just don't know from a functionality standpoint how it's going to function. I guess it depends on what the retail tenants are. I do agree with the developer's statement that we are, you know, with what is happening in recent months, the drive-through on this facility is probably a wanted feature. And then retail B has what they're pertaining to as a drive-up pickup window, kind of like order ahead and then pick up your food type thing, more so than a drive. Shouldn't be any real stacking there, but it just appears to be a lot in that space. I don't know how it's going to work in the whole entire development itself. So that was just kind of my question, my comment for the whole development itself.
Thank you for that. Katie Aspenson, city planner.
Jared, could you comment on the request of the property owner to reduce from 30 foot to 24 feet? If that's something that the Plan Commission wanted to do, they would need to include in their motion to amend 3E to whatever spacing would be appropriate, just as a heads up item.
So looking at that drive aisle in that area, I guess I haven't had any calls in my 20 plus years here of any problems at that area. And as the architect stated, 24 feet is a typical drive aisle width. That doesn't, their drawing, it does include the curb, which it wouldn't be included in the drive aisle typically, but 24 feet should be wide enough. As long as there's no parking along it, it should be signed no parking to make sure no one impedes on that drive lane, so we can get safety vehicles through. But 24 feet would be the minimum that I would say that should be, but it should function. And I guess I haven't heard of anything over the last years of that when it's been there.
Thank you for those comments, Jared. Any other questions or comments from the commissioners?
Kim, the only concern I have is with a lot of vehicular traffic in that area, egress in and out of those facilities in that area could be a problem at some point in time, but I guess it's a little hard to sit here and judge this now. I would suspect business would suffer if that's the case. So it's just a concern, but all in all, I guess I'm in favor.
Okay, and just for clarity, we have 30 feet in as the condition right now. Okay, we have a motion on the floor. I don't see anybody else raising their hand. So the motion on the floor is to approve the planned commercial industrial development amendment application with the 11 conditions. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those
Aye.
opposed, say no. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. And thank you for joining us, Mr.
Katie-
Terrell.
Katie,
And
did we want to address the drive aisle width? Did that need to be addressed, or can we?
We would need to address it, or it would be going to council if moved forward, and it could be addressed at that time if that's what you, as the plan commission, would like. There was the recommendation, if you did reduce it to 24, that it could be signed as no parking to alleviate a concern.
And again,
Katie can,
from our standpoint,
Katie?
from the development side, we would be fine with the no parking. Again, we believe it actually is 24 feet roughly there now. And so that's how we would just like to continue.
Katie, can staff make that recommendation to the council?
We can, if that's what the plan commission would like, since we missed it in the, so we have approved it at this point. We just didn't include
Yeah.
that as an amendment.
Well,
Amanda,
and
can we go back? Or
And that's why I restated for clarity, saying it is at 30 feet right now and nobody said anything, so I thought you wanted to keep it at 30. So Amanda, what are the options? What's the cleanest?
so I could restate it at the council and have it included in the packet as an updated condition.
That would probably be the cleanest, although we'd have to note that the recommendation came through at
It would-
30.
So then I would put it on the non-consent agenda then.
Okay, and make sure you include the no parking as well.
Yep, I can do that.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you.
And
For,
now, and thank you for joining us, those of you who were online.
Yes, ma'am.
Item 7
Mayor Smith,
is,
Eric,
yes, sir.
since the item is still the previous one, if any commissioner would like to make a motion to reconsider, you could have a motion right now to reconsider the previous action. If that passes by a majority, then you could amend the original motion at this point in time. If you commissioners wish to go on record, changing it to 24 feet.
That would keep it on the consent agenda for council.
Okay, so what's the pleasure of the commission? Would
Well,
someone like,
Yeah, I'll make that motion that we change that and amend what we would do, would we amend this or we just?
oh,
We
The
could-
first motion is a motion to reconsider that has to pass by a majority vote first.
Okay, so I'll make the motion that we reconsider since I did the first motion.
I'll second that.
okay, Craig, was that you that seconded?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion by Tom Smith, seconded by Craig to reconsider the previous motion, which was number 6, and the planned commercial industrial development amendment application. All those in favor of reconsidering, please say aye.
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 Those against reconsidering, please say no. Okay, motion passes. We are now reconsidering agenda item 6. If someone would like to make a new motion with, maybe Katie should state what the motion should be, and then someone can decide if they would like to make it. That would probably be the easiest.
So it would be a motion to approve the PCID amendment with the 11 stated conditions. And 3E would be restated that the frontage road within the parking lot shall be a minimum of 24 feet in width and signed no parking.
Thank you, Katie.
I will make that motion as stated by Katie.
I will second that.
Thank you. Motion was made by Craig, seconded by Tom, to approve the amendment as Katie stated with the 11 conditions, and item 3E had a slight change from the original. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor of this motion, please say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Thank you for fixing us up there, Eric.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item 7, the public hearing, which was going to start at approximately 7:30 or following the previous, to consider a planned commercial industrial development PCID amendment application filed by Colin Close, MBA Architects Incorporated, North 5560 CRZM Suite 3, Onalaska, Wisconsin 54650, on behalf of Mike Bishop, Massimo First Amendment and Restatement Musa Revocable Trust, 4800 North Federal Highway, Suite 201B, Boca Raton, Florida 33431, on the parcel located at 9362 State Road 16, Onalaska, Wisconsin 54650. This is tax parcel ID number 18-3529-0. I'll turn it over to Katie.
Thank you, Mayor. The applicant is requesting to amend the current PCID to allow for retail sales and to construct an addition to the principal structure. This development is considered a major amendment as there is a change in use from the original PCID, which only allowed the sale of shoes, to allow general retail, and also the increase in density, which is a building addition of 1,237 square feet, totaling 5,744 square feet. This amendment does require a public hearing. If approved by the Plan Commission and Common Council, the city will record the conditions of approval at the La Crosse County Register of Deeds to document the final list of approved conditions for all future development opportunities. Included is a proposed site plan which shows the building changes and other amenities. There's also a cover letter that describes the overall development. As a public hearing will be held, testimony should be considered before deciding on the requested PCID amendment. City staff have put together 8 conditions of approval for this development. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Katie. Okay, I now declare the public hearing for the planned commercial industrial development amendment open. If anyone would like to speak in favor of this, now is the time to do so. Anyone who would like to speak in favor? Anyone who would like to speak in favor of the amendment for the property on Highway 16? Now is the time. Final call for anyone who would like to speak in favor. Do you think that's someone trying to talk or just some back noise? Not sure. Okay, anyone wishing to speak against the amendment? Is there anyone who would like to speak against the amendment? This is the last call for anyone who would like to speak against the planned commercial industrial development amendment application filed by Colin Close. This is the last call. Not hearing anyone, the public hearing is now closed, and I will turn this item over to the commissioners. Amanda?
7807385 appears to have been trying to talk, but we can't hear you.
Okay, I'll give that person another opportunity. If they can make themselves heard, we're ready to listen.
Is that Craig Gritzbecker's phone number?
Craig, are you still on the line?
I am.
Okay.
No, it's not Craig. I don't know if you're too far away or your volume's not turned up, but we can't hear you.
Is it the 738?
5.
No, that's me.
Okay, that's you. 7807385, Craig?
Yes.
Okay. we just don't want someone to lose the opportunity to speak because it is sometimes difficult. So, I mean, if anybody's listening and you feel like you need to speak, now is a good time. Okay, we'll move on then. The commissioners were about to consider item 7, which is a PCID amendment application filed by Colin Close. And
I'll
there
make a
were,
motion. I'll make a motion that we approve agenda 7, the planned commercial industrial development amendment application for the parcel located at 9362 State Road 16 on Alaska with the 8 conditions.
thank you, Tom.
I'll
Do we have-
second that.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor by Alderperson Tom Smith and seconded by Commissioner Craig Brightsprecher to approve the PCID amendment for the parcel located at 9362 Highway 16 with the 8 conditions. Is there any discussion? Not seeing anyone for discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, please say no. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Now we're on to item 8, which is a public hearing to consider an application for a general development plan to create the Eagle Business Condo Association Planned Unit Development, PUD, filed by Adam Kirchner, Eagle Business Condo Association, 200 Mason Street, number 6 on Alaska, Wisconsin, 54650, on behalf of the Eagle Business Condo Association, 200 Mason Street on Alaska, Wisconsin, 54650, for the City of Unalaska parcels at 200 Mason Street, and this includes units 1 through 20. I will now declare the public hearing open and ask for people who would like to speak in favor of this planned unit development. Second call, if anyone would like to speak in favor of the planned unit development.
Adam Kirshner has his hand raised. Adam, you can just speak if you'd like.
Okay, yeah, this is set up a little different than some of the other Zoom meetings I've been on. So usually I can see myself, but I can only see all of you this time. So yeah, I have a couple little things from the special conditions. Section 2 specifically, if you have the document in front of you. If I go to section 2, number 5, it's asking for a signage master plan. We don't have a signage master plan in our PUD. We requested simply that we would have 2 signs per unit, and then our street signs, which is essentially what the city sign requirements are. We're not asking really for anything special. We're just asking for more of a condition in that way, because we don't have 20 buildings, we have 20 units, but we still want every tenant or every owner of each unit to be able to have 2 per. The other thing is there's a condition in there for, in section 2, number 7, it says landscaping along the southern lot line, which is what faces the Omni Center and the park. There's actually not enough space there on the back of our property to have any kind of landscaping. All we really have is grass there that we mow. And then our property borders I would say what is kind of like an open pit for water runoff. And then there is a fenced in area where the municipality keeps all of their extra rubbish. And we've been in communication with them to try to hopefully get them to do something to make that look a little nicer, because it's pretty rough looking. Also in section 2, if I go down to number 13, letter C, it says lots 3 and 4 are supposed to combine. Katie, maybe you can answer that. Why would those be combining?
I'm not allowed to speak
Yeah,
until. the
this
public
is
hearing.
just, and I apologize because I skipped the intro, but we'll come back to that. This is just we're just listening right now. So we can
Okay.
definitely make a note of that and come back to it during the discussion. You want to
Okay,
just continue on That's
Sure.
fine. We're getting our notes now. Thank you, Adam.
All right, Mayor. Yeah, 3 and 4, I'm not sure if 3 and 4 means units 3 and 4. But 3 and 4 is, it is one building, but it's 2 separate units. So maybe there's something I don't know on that. 13H is a piece for trees along the main road, which would be Mason Street. It says, I think like 1 to 2 feet or something of canopy every 25 feet, something like that. We actually don't have enough setback space to put trees in there. So we have bushes and such, but we don't have canopy coverage. So that would be a requirement that I don't think we'd ever be able to meet because they would overhang the sidewalk. And then 13K asks for lighting to be shielded in a down position. If this is essentially the new zoning is commercial business, I don't see how there would be any specific lighting requirements. There's no houses or anything around the property here. So that requirement seems a little bit unusual. So that's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Okay, anybody else wishing to speak in favor of the planned unit development? And then this will be the last call for anyone wishing to speak in favor of the planned unit development. I'll now ask if there's anyone who would like to speak against the planned unit development located at 200 Mason Street. Anyone wishing to speak against? I'll ask again if anyone would like to speak against the planned unit development at 200 Mason Street. And then the final call for anyone wishing to speak against. I'll now declare the public hearing closed and I'll turn to Katie for a summary. And I'm sorry I missed that at the beginning.
Thank you, Mayor. The applicant is requesting to create a planned unit development in response to the changes in the city's Unified Development Code. Included in your packet is a cover letter from the Eagle Business Condo Association describing the development and their requested deviations. In particular, to summarize, they're looking to be able to rebuild if in the future there was any fire or physical damage to the current structures, that they could use the same location, sizes, and building materials, including the existing landscaping. There are currently 70 parking stalls, general, and 5 ADA stalls. They're requesting to retain that and reserve the right to change current configuration based on needs of the property owners. In terms of signage, there are 2 monument signs currently serving development today. The first is 8x16 and the second is a 6x6. They're requesting the ability that if they need to be replaced, refinished, modified, that they have the ability to do so in the same location, dimensions, and design standards, including illumination. They are also requesting that each of the 20 units be authorized 2 exterior signs totaling up to 100 square feet. Signs may be 1-dimensional, 2-dimensional, illuminated or non-illuminated, and constructed within bylaws of the association and members. To allow the additional permitted uses of storage facility for personal use, light manufacturing, printing and publishing on a large scale, storage and sale of machinery and equipment, and warehouse and distribution facility. Previously, this was zoned light industrial, so they are essentially requesting to be allowed to continue the uses that were there today. It's pulled out specifically from the light industrial district as they are of a commercial district today with the new UDC in place. And their special additional request is to construct a limited visibility fence up to 8 feet along the southern and eastern property lines to improve aesthetics, and change or improve landscaping features in accordance with existing policies. We have had the public hearing. If you'd like, I can address the questions by the applicant, Mayor.
Yes, that would be good. And yes, please do that.
Okay, so just to note, so item number 2, these are all of the past approvals that are tied to this development. So 2B is there was previously a conditional use permit issued for this development. So that includes items 1 through 13. Signage master plan shall be required. What the applicant has requested could constitute as a master signage plan. Item 2B7, landscaping shall be required along the southern lot facing Van Riper Park and Omni Center. This was an original condition of approval, so it would be up to the Plan Commission to change that. To note that the applicant in their letter, and we can confirm if this is correct with the applicant, that they were going to put up to an 8-foot high fence along the entire southern property boundary. So in the event that if landscaping doesn't work, that could be another means of a screen, if that's something that the Plan Commission would consider.
Katie, can you hold one moment? I think Jared wants to interject something.
Yeah, this facility is basically cut off on to the whole southern side. Our city public works facility does wrap around the facility. We actually have one salt shed that cuts off a lot of the view of the south side, and then there's a stormwater retention pond. So there's probably 100 feet of pond before you get over to the Omni Center property. So the condition for the landscaping along the south lot line was required for this development before any of that development went in with the city facilities there. So I really feel that that condition should be probably taken off. It's not pertinent anymore with what we have as a city facility for that view shed.
Thank you, Jared. Okay, back to Katie Aspenson, the city planner.
Okay, so the next is the site plan had called out all the conditional use permit conditions. So now we're going to go back to the original site plan to when this project was constructed. So lots 3 and 4 combined for a condo plat that was completed. It is now a condominium plat. As you had stated, there's 1 building and 2 owners. So that condition has been satisfied. In terms of the 1 caliper canopy tree required per 25 feet of frontage, if that is not available, it would be up to the Plan Commission to approve that the shrubs in lieu of the trees would be appropriate. Item K, all lighting shall be, yes,
That's for the boulevard though? That's
for the boulevard.
Yeah, see the front, the landscaping they have is between the buildings and the right of way. So this would be along the boulevard area that the trees are required in the city right away.
Correct.
Is there, Jared, is there room for trees there?
There should be. I think there might even be trees there. I guess
I'm pulling up ArcMap as we chat.
I drove by there twice today on the way to the shop and I drive by there so much I don't notice, but they're probably already there.
And it's entirely possible. I'll have an answer for you in a moment. Moving forward to item K, all lighting shall be shielded down. This is a standard condition of approval that we have for all commercial development. Essentially, we don't want excessive light pollution. So shielded down means that it's not pointed up into the air. It can point on the buildings, it can point on the ground, essentially limiting lighting on the property so that it's not bleeding onto adjacent properties. And I believe that those were all of the requests that have been put forth. To note that the next step, if this is approved by the Plan Commission and Common Council, that they will have to come back for a final implementation plan. It will likely be very similar to what you have here today. And if there are any questions, we're happy to answer them. And I'm working on the boulevard tree question as we speak.
Okay, just pipe in when you get that information, Katie. Is there any other, Jared would like to say something.
I'm just gonna make a motion if we're ready.
Okay.
I'd make a motion that we approve the general development plan for the Eagle Business Condo Association plan development at 200 Mason Street with the 9 conditions attached, with that striking condition 2B7 for landscaping shall be required along the south lot line of Van Riper Park and the Omni Center.
I'll second that.
2B7. Okay, we have a motion on the floor by by city engineer Jared Holter, and it was second by Alderperson Tom Smith to approve the general development plan for the PUD with the 9 conditions, with the understanding that item 2B7
7.
2B7 will be struck. Katie Aspenson.
I also wanted to note that the applicant has requested in terms of signage 2 signs per business. That is allowable within our code. My only question is clarification as to the 100 square feet, if that is a total per business. Our zoning code only allows you to have up to a total of 500 square feet per facade. So if there were, I don't know the maximum number of applicants in a particular building, but say if there were 8, then they would be allowed to have 800 square feet as opposed to what our code would allow. And I just wanted to let the Plan Commission know that that was essentially what the applicant has requested, unless I'm misinterpreting their request.
Thank you, Katie. Okay, commissioners, is there any further discussion? Katie, should we wait for you to have that information?
Question.
Yes.
I want to know if, with all the discussion we've had here, if Adam is satisfied with the motion as is being presented.
Okay, Adam, are you still available?
Yes, I am. And Katie, I did just have a look at the street view, and we do have the trees there.
Wonderful.
Perfect.
You're
thank
quicker than I can get there with my computer. at the moment.
Yeah, Google Maps.
Appreciate it.
And Mr. Stempty, yes, we would be satisfied with the motion as it stands.
Okay, okay.
And to answer the other question about the signage, up to 100 square feet per tenant, we don't have more than 2 units per building. So there would per facade, the maximum amount that would be per facade would be 400.
Absolutely allowable within our conditions. Thank you for explaining that. I appreciate it.
Yes, and thank you for being available. It helps when these questions come up. Okay, any other questions from the commissioners? All right, we have a motion on the floor then to approve the general development plan with the 9 conditions, understanding 2B7 was struck. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, item 9, the public hearing to consider a planned unit development amendment application for the Crestwood Estates filed by Jacob Birch Logistics Development Group LLC, 2102 State Highway 16, La Crosse, Wisconsin, 54601, located at State Road 16 at the end of Crestwood Lane, Onalaska, Wisconsin, 54650. This is tax parcel number 18-4483-1. And I'll put it to Katie Aspenson, City Planner, for a brief summary.
Thank you, Mayor. The Common Council and Plan Commission have previously approved a preliminary and final plat and of overall planned unit development for an 18-lot single-family residential development. The city has not yet signed nor caused the final plat to be recorded, as the infrastructure has not yet been fully installed, nor has the final plat been approved by the Department of Administration. This PUD amendment is requesting to facilitate a change in density. In here shows the approved plat showing the current parcel configuration of 18 lots and the proposed new PUD amendment showing a new total of 15 parcels, however, merging lots 9, 10, 11, and 12 into one to contain 4 twindos. It is the intention that the new lot 9 would have 3 driveways, with twindos B and C being served by individual driveways and twindos A and D to share a single driveway. The applicant may request, if this is approved, to complete a separate condominium plat for lot 9, as it is intended to be under shared ownership. We are in communication with the Department of Administration to establish the process that they will need to do moving forward. As a public hearing will be held, testimony should be considered before deciding on the requested PUD amendment process. City staff have put together a total of 11 conditions of approval for this development, and in particular, conditions 8, 9, and 10 are the process that the applicant would need to follow if this was approved by the Plan Commission and Common Council.
Thank you, Kitty Espenson. I'll call for the public hearing to open. If there is anyone that would like to speak in favor of this planned unit development amendment application for Crestwood Estates, now is the time. Would anyone like to speak in favor of the PUD for the Crestwood Estates? This is the third and final call, asking for people to speak in favor of the PUD amendment application for Crestwood Estates. Not hearing anyone, I'll ask for anyone who would like to speak against the PUD amendment application for Crestwood Estates. Would anyone like to speak against? Third and final call for anyone wishing to speak against the PUD amendment for Crestwood. Okay, I'm not hearing anyone, so the public hearing for this is now closed, and I will turn it over to the commissioners. Are there any questions? Or would someone like to make a motion?
I'd make a motion to approve the amendment to application for Crestwood Estates for the planned unit development amendment with the 11 conditions attached.
I would second that.
Thank you. We have a motion by Jared Holter, city engineer, seconded by Craig Breitsprecher, commissioner, to approve this amendment application with 11 conditions. Is there any discussion? Jan Brock.
Just a couple things. I was wondering if, without the developer here, it's hard to say, but if any of these adjoining lots have been sold. People purchased those lots thinking there would be single-family homes there, and now there are going to be twin homes. Also, for those 4 lots, we're doubling. I just want to make sure I have this. We're doubling from 4 home sites to 8. Correct?
Katie, can you answer that for us, please?
Yes, so no parcels have been sold. That can only
okay.
occur after the final plat has been recorded. And yes, you are correct. It would be doubling the density from 4 single family to 8 units for twin homes.
Is there a problem with that, like sewer-wise or anything?
So the sewer and water system has been sized for these units. Before the street had the rock installed on it, the changes were made to the utilities to accommodate this this development that you see in front of you today.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Amanda, did you want to say something?
There's a Mr. Schubert on the phone who has his hand raised.
Okay, Mr. Schubert.
Is there anyone on the phone that has their hand raised or joining us? I have somebody showing up as Dietmar Schubert.
Is it Kevin Schubert?
Is that Kevin? They can speak, they're not muted.
Okay, Jared.
Yeah, I'd want to add one more condition as a motion to add a condition.
Okay, so you want to make an amendment?
Amendment, yes, an amendment to the original motion. I would make a motion that lot number 9 buildings A, B, and D to have a minimum 18-foot wide driveway with turning radius to allow for city fire truck access.
I'll second that.
Just to make, discussion.
Okay, hold on here. We have a motion on the floor. It's an amendment to amend the motion on the floor to include that lot number 9 with its 4 parts has, what was it, Jared?
Building sites A, B, and D to have a minimum 18-foot wide driveway to allow for turning radius of city fire truck.
Thank you. Okay, now, so we have that motion on the floor. It was made by Jared, seconded by Craig. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, and now we can have discussion on the amendment. Jared, why do you made the amendment?
I just wanted to make sure we get a fire truck in there. They would have to back out. There wouldn't be a turnaround necessarily, but I just want to make sure when we do the final site plan review, we can adhere to that condition to make sure we get a fire truck in there.
Thank you, Jared.
I agree. I agree with Jared's assessment. As a matter of fact, he and I actually talked about that today. Because I had been up there with Troy and the chief earlier, and getting emergency vehicles in and out of there is not simple to begin with. And I think that adjustment will help tremendously.
Okay. Thank you for that. Okay, let's vote on the amendment then. So now we're voting on the amendment to add the driveway necessary restriction for that lot 9. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. Okay, the motion carries. So now we're back to the original motion, which was to approve with the 11 conditions plus the new one that we've just added concerning the 18-foot driveway on lot 9 and its subparts. Any discussion on that?
Yeah, I got a question, and Jarrett mainly. I'm looking at items at units A and D. Who's responsible for the snow removal on that long driveway?
Those are private driveways that the condo development will have to maintain.
Oh, so you got.
So they'll have to do all the pavement maintenance, snow plowing, any of those activities.
Okay, so all 4 units will have to have sort of a homeowners association type thing there to set something up like that?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that, Skip. Katie, don't we have, or Jared, doesn't that exceed the setback allowances that we have for fire control? Katie?
Yes, as part of the original planned unit development, they were allowed to set their own building sites. And that is allowable when you have a PUD. So you don't have to follow your standard setbacks.
Okay, I'm just thinking of when some other developments went in, like in what comes to mind, I think is Elmwood, where it's kind of steep and then there were longer distances allowed, which made it virtually impossible for the fire truck to get there.
Correct.
I just don't want to enter into a situation like that.
That's me.
And
Yeah.
I would also like to note that we still have the original conditions from when the last time that the Plan Commission and Common Council reviewed this. Specifically tying to that would be number 2U, recommending 13R sprinkler systems for all of the residences due to anticipated topography, setbacks of homes, of streets, and non-direct driveways. So we did not require it at that time, but as this will be recorded if approved, anyone purchasing a home will see these conditions and the recommendations of the council and Plan Commission.
Okay, and then I have one other question. With this pending approval from the state, are we anticipating any changes that we'll have to accommodate coming down from the state looking at the plans?
They will need to reapply for a new preliminary plat if this is approved by the council. In discussions with the state, they walked me through what process is necessary. So they have to apply for a new preliminary plat and final plat, which they can do at the same time. that will also not just go through the state, but it'll also go through the city. And then provided that we approve that lot 9, they will have to come back once a new tax parcel has been assigned in order to allow it to go from an R1 district to an R3 district, as that's the only zoning district outside of multifamily that would allow up to 8 units, which is what they'd like to do on this parcel. Subsequently, once the rezoning is in place, then they can go and apply for a condominium plat and establish the homeowners association that Skip was mentioning previously. So it's a 3-step process. The developer is aware of these conditions and what process they need to follow.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions or comments by the commissioners? Okay, we'll get ready to vote then on the motion, which is to approve the general development plan on the PUD for it's the amended application for the Crestwood Estates with the 9 original conditions plus the 1 additional concerning the 18-foot wide driveway. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, please say no. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item 10 is consideration of the 2020 Plan Commission Subcommittee meetings. Kitty, I'll just turn it over to you.
Sure,
Or
thank
do you want me to discuss it? I mean, I can do it or
I
you.
can give a summary and we'll see
Okay.
what the commission likes. So 2 items. One, if I can get a raise of a hand or an eye, just for housekeeping purposes, for the June meeting, would you prefer as a plan commission to meet like this again? Or would you prefer more of a hybrid approach where you would potentially, if we have the technology in place, be seated in council chambers, but still have the public come in via webinar? Is there a preference?
Council chambers with the public accessible by webinar.
Craig, loud and clear. Anyone
Okay.
else with an opinion?
I second that, Craig. Yeah, I agree. I like council with the public access.
Okay,
Anyone else?
Dan, what do you think?
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Skip?
Skip?
I prefer the council.
Okay.
Okay, so if someone did not feel necessarily comfortable to come into the council chambers for whatever reason, that hybrid approach would still allow you to participate remotely. You would not be required to come in. You would just have the ability to come in if you wanted.
It
So
would be
just let
just
the-
like this.
It'd be just like this, but there would be people sitting behind us in the picture.
But I would look the same.
Yes,
The people sitting at the council chamber will be on one video
on
camera.
screen.
Yeah,
would
so
be
it'd be
everyone.
one stream with everyone in the council chamber.
Okay.
So
Mayor,
Only
you always
individual
look the
seated.
same.
Thank you. For 20 years now, right?
Okay, so I will note that for moving forward. Thank you. I apologize it wasn't firmly on the agenda, but consideration of the 2020 Plan Commission Subcommittee. As many of you have noticed, we've had subcommittee meetings, which do not tend to take a long time for the purpose, from what I can understand, that the Plan Commission likes to weigh in on the overall development, and the subcommittee wants to know what the full Plan Commission is thinking. That's also where we have our public hearings. I would recommend that we no longer have our subcommittee meeting for the remainder of the 2020 season to test it out, because as we did with the Unified Development Code update, we can always schedule an additional Plan Commission meeting if needed. We could always call the subcommittee to have an additional meeting if needed. Just in terms of, we're always asked to look for efficiencies in staff time and expense. And I believe that no longer having the subcommittee would achieve both of those goals. But as it is ultimately a subcommittee of the Plan Commission, I'm looking for your feedback on this evening.
Thank you. Jared?
So just a little history here. The Plan Commission Subcommittee came about in the late 80s because of the development happening within the community. And the Plan Commission meetings were going so long and getting into such technical items that they decided to have a meeting 2 weeks ahead of time, because Mayor Van Riper wanted to have things more prepared when it got to the public hearings and give the chance for the developers to address issues. I think with what staff has done over the last 15 years is really has meetings with those developers ahead of time. So a lot of the subcommittee items really get taken care of at the staff level. So we are addressing those with the developers beforehand and making sure that the plans are already to the plan commission level when they go to subcommittee. So, you know, I agree with this. You know, our subcommittee meetings over the years have gotten less and less technical, less and less going on because I think staff does a really good job of reaching out to developers, and also through our site plan process, we solicit comments and do a much better job in the last 15 years of getting site plans committed and trying to get them in and go over them before the meetings. So I'm in concurrence with what Katie's stating.
Thank you. Alder Smith?
Yeah, Katie and I had this discussion too, and I'm full agree about, you know, the last couple meetings, I think they were like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. We really, and then we rehashed a lot of the same things at the planning commission. It seems like it's a repeat. So I really do think that it makes sense to not have the subcommittee. And if there is a special reason why we need to, then we'd call one on demand. But I would say, I agree with what Katie was proposing. It's a good idea.
Okay, Skip?
Yes, when there's public hearings coming up, there's really nothing that the subcommittee can do whatsoever because we have to listen to the public hearings before we can make any recommendations anyway. So like
Okay.
this meeting was all public hearings. The subcommittee meeting would have been just pass it on, pass it on, pass it on, pass it on. We might even break our record on how fast we get through one if we had one for this one.
That's almost 5 minutes.
Correct.
Okay, Jan or Craig, did you want to add anything?
No, I was just curious as to what Skip thought, because he's a light. But if they're all in favor of that, by all means, let's expedite the process.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what when Katie mentioned it to me too, I said, well, what does Skip think? Because I went to the most planning subcommittee meetings of anybody in the history of Onalaska, except maybe Leo Lansinger.
Yeah.
One thing about the subcommittee, sometimes we can clue the petitioner into certain directions so that when they get to the plan commission, they're better prepared to answer things. So that's about the only benefit of it, really.
Okay.
Thank you.
I've not been on it, so I'm just listening to what everybody else is saying, but I think Jared's comments about city staff is taking care of a lot of this beforehand is very good.
All right, thank you. Katie, does that give you what you need then?
I will cancel for 2020. And then probably at the December Plan Commission, I will see what the thought is if we want to continue or restart back up in January. And if it's to continue to no longer meet, then we will just continue to have strictly Plan Commission for Onalaska.
Yeah, and you know, I think for FMP, we have a FMP2 option for that we only enact when it's budget time. I think that would be a similar situation.
Okay, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay,
I'll second.
I have a motion by Craig, seconded by Tom to adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. We are adjourned and the time is 8:19.
See you all soon.
Bye.
Have
Thank
a
you,
good night,
bye.
everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, I didn't think the meeting would be over in an hour and 20 minutes. Bye, Skip.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Jan.